This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Hello everyone, Andy Pickering here, and we have a very good show for you today. But before we get into it, need to shout out our new sponsor, Nexo. Yes indeed, are you ready to grow your wealth with the world's leading digital assets institution, Nexo? Well, you should be ready, because you can earn up to 12% on your digital assets with Nexo's high yield savings account. That's right. So treat yourself, treat your crypto, and treat your fiat with the industry's best crypto and fiat services, which include compounding interest paid out daily. There are 18 available cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, various stablecoins, and many more. And 3 fiat currencies are accepted, the euro, the pound, and USD. And Nexo has up to $375 million worth of insurance across all custodial assets. Top-ups and withdrawals are available at any time, and there are 0 fees for using the Nexo Earn Suite. So, are you ready to start earning? Of course you are. Simply go to nexo.io, and of course that is spelt NEXO.io. And now it's on with the show. My guest today is Oliver Gale. Oliver is the CEO and founder of Panther Protocol, an end-to-end privacy protocol for digital assets which can be deployed on any public blockchain. Welcome to the show, Oliver.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
And just before we start to talk about Panther Protocol and your background, Oliver, I understand you're in Miami. You've just finished up the Miami Bitcoin conference.
Yep, I'm in Miami for my sins. And it was great.
Well, just to give us a little bit of a not a review, just a bit of an idea of how the conference was for you. What did you think?
Well, it's the biggest one that I've been to, and I've been coming to these Miami Bitcoin conferences since 2013. Miami's always Miami, but this time there were just many more people, a lot of satellite events, meeting rooms, dinners, basically events put on by various funds and groups, protocols, etc. And so it's always a lot of fun. And it's always good networking. You get to meet people in, personal setting. And of course, like for those people that are new to crypto, there would have been a lot of great speakers and opportunity to connect and get to understand the scope of the blockchain ecosystem in these days.
Yeah, cool. And look, I guess the kind of the big announcement was, the Jack Mallers speech, and then the announcement by the president of El Salvador that he would potentially look at making Bitcoin a legal tender. And so it's been interesting, a lot of debate since the market has been slow to react, shall we say. But what did you think of that announcement by the president of El Salvador?
Well, for me, that's a very close question in terms of the legality and technicality behind Bitcoin as legal tender instrument for a number of reasons. In 2013, when we set up the first Caribbean Bitcoin exchange, there was no regulation, and more or less no one in the Caribbean knew what Bitcoin was. And so we got a legal opinion, and that opinion was on the basis of the existing legislation, which is largely unamended in most parts of the world, which speaks towards legal tender status, notes and coins. And, legal tender is subject to regulations. And so in the absence of that legal tender status, we were able to launch the financial services that we did. And those ultimately culminated in the first central bank digital currency, which was issued recently this year in March by the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. And so we use the absence of legislation in those times to give us a gray zone in which we could operate. Now, of course, there's a lot more clarity around the regulatory position, but having Bitcoin designate as legal tender would, in some senses, it creates certainty, which increases barriers to entry. But I think the overall net benefit of having Bitcoin firmly designated as a currency instrument, payment instrument, has really positive implications towards adoption of all blockchain, all cryptocurrencies, if you will.
Yes, I think that's probably correct. And I think we better rewind at this point, Oliver, and just give you a chance to properly introduce yourself. And you have quite an interesting background, as you kind of alluded to there. So maybe we'll talk about Panther Protocol very soon. But for now, yeah, please, Oliver, I'd love it if you would introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your life story and your background kind of leading up to where you are today.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, I got into the crypto space in 2013. I did so through a chance meeting with a friend of mine who later became the co-founder of Bit.com, which was our first business in the crypto space. And so I was returning to Barbados from New York. And in New York, I'd spent the previous 4 months sleeping on some friends' couches, basically as a full-time recording artist. I had just finished my mixtape. I'd put out an album the year prior, and I had been doing underground shows and interviews and music videos in New York City in order to build up my credentials to get an O1 visa, which I got. It's a visa for extraordinary individuals. That's the designation of it. It doesn't mean I'm extraordinary. It just means I got it. And so I came back to Barbados to get my visa stamped. And that really was the culmination of 8 years as an entrepreneur in the music industry. So all of my reggae songs and hip hop songs, which I'd written and produced, were launched through my record label, Authentic Revolution. And I came to Barbados to get the US visa stamped, and I was introduced to Bitcoin, and within 24 hours became an investor and was asked if I wanted to be a co-founder of what became the Caribbean's first exchange and mining company, with my co-founder for that venture, Gabriel Abed, and he was the technical partner. I had done a degree in accounting and management at the University of Bristol, so I had a good first principles basis and entrepreneurial experience. And everything there and since then has been self-learning and essentially just teaching myself and growing with the crypto ecosystem through a number of, exciting moments. As I mentioned, we issued the second stable coin. That was the Barbadian digital dollar in 2015 on the Colored Coins protocol. And then in 2016, we secured the first central bank contract. I spent 4 or 5 years traveling the world, speaking and informing regulators and nonprofit organizations like the World Bank, UN, Bank of International Settlements, IMF, etc., on what Bitcoin was, on what blockchain was, and particularly on what central bank digital currency was and how it would work. And so since then, I've set up a number of projects. We have our own hedge fund, which is based to, I set up a consumer credit platform called Elemental, which is focused on affordable credit for emerging markets. And I met my co-founder, Anish Mohammed, speaking at an event in Tulum in early 2020. And I've always been an investor since the Mastercoin ICO, Ethereum ICO, and in privacy technologies, I've also been an investor. And so for fundamental reasons related to freedom and sovereignty and my beliefs around what will improve our world. And so Anish and I saw eye to eye on that, and the rest, as far as Panther is concerned, is history.
Yeah, well, fascinating, Oliver. So you have, it's quite an interesting background to say the least, and amazing to kind of see you go on this journey from being, I guess, like a hip hop or a ragga artist from Barbados, and you've done quite a lot in the crypto space already, and now here we are at Panther Protocol. So I guess we probably should start to understand a bit about the Panther Protocol. And the easiest way to do that first is kind of to, I guess, define the problem that you guys are solving, right? And I suppose the easy way to do that is, in blockchain, most people understand that there is actually, very little privacy on chain, right? As the recent ransomware hackers in the US have discovered, the FBI were able to essentially track them down, presumably using blockchain analysis. But the flip side of that, of course, is also, particularly in DeFi traders, it's hard for them sometimes to hide what they're doing because of the public nature of the Ethereum ecosystem. So you pick up the thread, Oliver. Just explain what we mean by the problem here, as I guess it pertains to a DeFi and Panther Protocol.
Sure. The fundamental problem is that a world without privacy is a world, particularly in digital economies, is one where you don't have sovereignty or ownership of your data. And without having ownership of your data, you're subject to surveillance and exploitation. And so, in some very real sense, if you believe that blockchain technologies are going to underpin the future of governance and consensus building and the sort of ordering and structuring of economies based upon the various ecosystems which are emerging as dominant forces, then you have this real challenge which will emerge around the continuing function of a democratic society, because those who have resources are able to exploit the data which is available on chain and gain insights which are not available to others. So how that pans out in very real terms for DeFi users is the erosion of alpha. It is using statistical methods like those used by Chainalysis and Elliptic and others in investigations and for compliance purposes to create an edge in the trading arena. And so there are a number of funds and services like Glassnode, etc., who rely on on-chain analytics and build their own proprietary tools to find out what their peers or competitors are doing and front run their trades. And that eliminates your competitive edge and your alpha ultimately. That's one side of the problem. There's another side of the problem, which is that many people don't recognize that the DeFi space is not going to continue to be an unregulated, anybody can come and interact with type experience. So we are expecting this month to see some clarity from FinCEN and FATF around their suggested guidelines. And to make a long story short, whilst there's ambiguity about how that plays out, what's pretty clear is that if you are providing financial services by way of a protocol, then you are going to have to embed some form of AML, KYC compliance into the experience. And so from that perspective, it exacerbates the issue of having a public chain, because now you have these explicit records which link your identity. And so it's more important than ever from the perspective of DeFi users to have the ability to say, hi, I want to use your service, but my data is my data and I own it and I am not going to share it. And it's the prerogative of the financial service offerer, whether it's an application connected to a DeFi protocol or financial institution, to refuse to offer you those services unless you make certain disclosures like your proof of ID or address or your transaction history. And so in a world where both parties retain their rights to choose, you can mediate and negotiate, and Panther facilitates this by way of confidential disclosures, which enable users to have privacy to the rest of the ecosystem and world for those that they don't wish to share any of their data with, and then to actually engage in negotiation with the counterparties they wish to engage in commerce with. And this doesn't apply strictly to DeFi. This applies to any authority. It could be medical records, it can be NFT ownership, it can be identity, etc.
Wow. Very interesting, Oliver. So, yeah, let's try and understand then how you're looking to solve some of these problems, or at least aim to provide a solution, shall we say, right? So you describe Panther Protocol as an end-to-end privacy protocol for DeFi, but there's other use cases as well, as you've identified. And so you say that Panther provides its users with fully collateralized, privacy-enhancing digital assets, leveraging crypto economic incentives, and zkSNARKs technology, which of course is zero proofs. So this is fascinating indeed. All right, so yeah, you've identified the problem, you've explained that, you've articulated that really well. So now, tell us, I guess, a little bit more about what Panther Protocol is, and kind of, without sort of, going super deep down the rabbit hole, the technicals of how it works from, I guess, a user perspective with, zero knowledge proofs.
Sure. So Panther is a meta protocol in that we are building and launching on Ethereum first. That's phase one. The second phase of the protocol is a private cross-chain DEX, and that connects us into the third phase, which is deploying Panther on multiple smart contract-enabled protocols. And so when you enable that ecosystem, you can have the experience of private DeFi and engaging in private cross-chain transactions. These transactions are carried out using zAssets, which are wrapped versions of the underlying asset. So one ETH would be wrapped into one zETH. The ETH is held in an on-chain vault, so it's a fully decentralized custodial system. And once you own the zETH, you can then engage in private transactions with other users and with DeFi smart contracts. The way that looks from the user's experience ultimately is very similar to the way it looks when you engage with DeFi using a traditional wallet. So Panther's building our own wallet, but we're also enabling integrations through third-party wallets. So we have a partnership in place with Liquality, which is a cross-chain MetaMask style wallet. And what that allows one to do, as an example of a partner, is use zAssets, zETH, zUSDT, ZWBTC, for example, and then connect to your favorite DeFi protocol and execute a trade. Now, one of the things that makes Panther unique is that when we look at the privacy offerings that relate to DeFi in the space, the narrative and message is you deserve privacy. So come and use our protocol and our ecosystem. And that involves leaving the existing DeFi ecosystem. In our view, that's not a viable approach. If you want to really be a player in the DeFi privacy space, you have to be composable with the existing DeFi solutions. And so if you're using Uniswap as an example, you will connect your Panther wallet or your Panther-enabled wallet to Uniswap. If you have zETH and you want to trade that for USDT, you can do so. The Uniswap pair does not have to support Panther or zETH or zUSDT. Panther handles all of that interaction and will deliver zUSDT to you within the Panther wallet or the Panther account. So at every step of the engineering cycle, our team is asking the question of how do we make this as seamless as possible and as intuitive as possible how do we plug into the existing ecosystem and not ask people to join a new one?
Yeah, very cool. Well, I think it'd be useful at this point, Oliver, to just explain a little bit more about zkSNARKs or zero knowledge proofs, which are, yeah, pretty interesting cryptographic technology, also, of course, famously used by Zcash. But yeah, so just really quickly, what is a zero knowledge proof, Oliver?
Zero knowledge proof is a proof that a condition has been met without having to reveal the underlying data that matches that proof.
Yes.
And so, for example, you can provide a zero knowledge proof that you are over 18 years old. And so there's a prover and a verifier. So the prover wants to prove that they're over 18 or that they're not from a sanctioned country, as an example. And they will submit the proof, and the proof is then verified by the verifier. And so it's, complex maths that underpins the process. But what it essentially does is it allows the verifier to validate, based on information submitted by the prover, that they know that they meet the criteria. And in order to meet the criteria, they have to have the data on it. So in this case, it would be a proof that the user has done KYC and received the verification from another service provider. And so, this is very important because it enables all types of scalability when applied to off-chain computation. It enables privacy as it pertains to proving that a ledger of transactions has integrity and there haven't been double spends or weird things happening with balances. And broadly speaking, we see zero knowledge proofs as becoming a fundamental transport layer of information for the internet. And so instead of us giving third parties our underlying data, which is then subject to their cybersecurity, theft, hacking, manipulation, you can actually provide a proof and proofs that conditions have been met, which dramatically reduces the cost for the service providers, because it's often not appreciated that storing confidential information is an expensive and risky process. And so the benefit to society of using zero knowledge proofs to enable the proving that conditions have been met without actually having to give the information over is a huge cost saving. And that's one of the things that Panther does, is we enable zk disclosures, which are what they sound like. It's a way of proving that arbitrary conditions have been met without having to hand your data over to third parties.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And look, a great explanation again, Oliver. Thank you for that. So look, as we finish off this part of the podcast, I guess it'd be nice, Oliver, just if you kind of give us an idea of where Panther Protocol is at in terms of, user numbers, use cases, adoption, and just kind of getting traction, right? So, ultimately you are providing what is probably going to turn out to be an in-demand solution, right? For and again, across, not just DeFi, but, NFTs and identity, all these other use cases that will demand user privacy as they kind of scale out and user numbers increase, right? And so this is just privacy is going to be a necessary part of the decentralized technology stack, if you like. So yeah, I mean, I understand that you guys have built out quite a formidable looking team. You've had a successful fundraise. So yeah, just pick up the story. Where are you at now, and where do you see your next steps on your roadmap?
Yeah, good question. So as you pointed out, we completed a private sale, which was an $8 million US raise. We've used that to assemble a team of peers from our network and some people we didn't know. Collectively, we've worked on over 50 protocols. And so we certainly have the capacity to deliver high value protocols as has been done before. In terms of growth and traction, we're preparing for a public sale, which will take place in August. We just completed a rebrand. We announced our first layer 1 cross-chain integration partnership with Flare Networks, which is major. Flare is a very exciting protocol. We're working on others in that arena. Our social media metrics are doubling roughly every week now that we've sort of activated our messaging and communications plan, which took a while to really make sure we had the right people in place to be able to communicate the value proposition effectively. We're seeing that happen now. It's paying dividends, and it's, you know, it's very important to grow the community. And as for the technology itself, we're aiming to launch the MVP at the end of Q3. We're on track for that. We spent a lot of time working on the architecture. The white paper is due to be released in the next week or two. That is a good read. It's a technical document, but it also explains the value proposition. Currently, our GitHub is private, but we, again, just organized our engineering team and our product management team and our roadmap. Everything has been aligned. And so we expect to see significant uptick in GitHub deliverables and activity shortly. And I think broadly speaking, I would say that the ship is well manned, well resourced, and we're moving in the right direction on every metric that we're able to measure. So we're hoping that when we come into production, we see users recognize the value proposition and that the story continues.
Fantastic. Well, let's go to a very quick break, Oliver, and then I'm excited to come back and do the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round with you, because I'm sure you have some interesting ideas on all of this good stuff. All right, back in 1 second.
Grow your wealth with the world's leading digital assets institution, Nexo. Earn up to 12% on your digital assets with Nexo's high-yield savings account. Treat yourself, your crypto and fiat with the industry-best crypto and fiat services, featuring compounding interest paid out daily, 18 available cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, stablecoins, and more. 3 fiat currencies are accepted: Euro, Pounds, and USD. Up to 375 million insurance on all custodial assets, top-ups and withdrawals available at any time, and 0 fees for using Nexo Earn Suite. Start earning at nexo.io. That's nexo.io.
All right, we're back, and I'm with Oliver Gale. Oliver is the CEO and founder of the Panther Protocol, privacy protocol for digital assets. And look, Oliver, I like to finish each podcast with a quick round of rapid-fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Sure. I have no idea what I'm in for, but let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. It doesn't matter if you have no idea. All I want is just your hot takes, your hot fire on the following question. Quick, just your quick, snappy answers. Whatever comes to mind, Oliver, is absolutely fine. Let's go. Oliver, where do you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin opportunist spectrum?
Just like evolution, there have to be niches for unique offerings. Bitcoin's very important, but there are other protocols that are proving that they're needed and will be valuable.
Yes, very diplomatic and sensible answer. Hard to argue with that, Oliver. But what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
It's Bitcoin, proof of work. Long-term, the argument is so solid, but it's hard to choose one, but I have to say I'm with proof of work.
Okay, very good. All right, well, and a follow-up question to that. does proof of work mining, what is the key to kind of overcoming the narrative that proof of work is boiling the oceans? And number one, how do you overcome that narrative? And number two, how do you transition proof of work to full-scale renewables?
So Bitcoin miners require a plug, not fossil fuels, and I think that's really overlooked. Renewable energies are quickly becoming the most cost-effective and fastest growing segment in the energy sector. And so as the world transitions to clean energy, so will Bitcoin mining. That's the long-term answer. The short-term is already actually taking place. Miners are transitioning out of China. There's greater migration towards US shores, which have better renewable footprints. And so it's a case of education and natural migration of the optimal place to mine cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and it's going to be one of the more interesting and volatile narratives to watch across the next decade, I reckon. But Oliver, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. So look, let's assume that proof of work mining transitions to a beautiful green energy future in 10 years time. But what about, I don't know, whatever you like, blockchain, DeFi, Panther Protocol, what does it look like in 10 years time?
10 years time, cryptocurrencies have established themselves as the one of the top three, if not one of the top. I'm going to say, actually, I'll go out on a limb and say in 10 years time, the largest, most used currency globally is a cryptocurrency. CBDCs will be well adopted, but quantitative easing and irresponsible fiscal management on the behalf of nation states is going to see the erosion of most fiat currencies and their replacement by cryptocurrencies, probably Bitcoin and Ethereum.
I love it. All right, Oliver, we'll look on a similar note. William Gibson said that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Governance. I think DAO governance is going to be the future for organizational management of nation states, management of digital states. And for me, that's the most exciting untapped area within the blockchain space, is just the profound implications that human and machine-driven economies and their governance decisions are going to make upon how we operate in physical and digital worlds.
Yeah, love that, fantastic. Okay, well, time to zoom out and get a little bit weird. Oliver, what do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
It's very simple in life. You are either optimistic or pessimistic. So that's a choice we all get to make. And there's not much positive out of the despair path. So I'm an optimist. I believe that we will see decentralized systems create a better distribution of power and more accountability of our authorities. With that said, I also think that machine learning and artificial intelligence is going to really the outcome of that, and things like genetic engineering and technologies like CRISPR are going to create an interesting scenario where actually the evolutionary base from an organic organic life's perspective may well be based upon a foundation of branching out Homo sapiens into different sects, the unengineered, the engineered, the cyborg, etc. And within that context, the role that artificial intelligence plays is there's some scary implications of actually not having this data sovereignty solution, something like Panther, at the heart of it, because the ability of machine learning tools and systems to assimilate all of this information and have just what I would consider to be too much power is very, very dangerous. And so it's essential that in order for us to live in a free world, we must have ownership of our data. And it's this type of long view thinking, which is what Anish and I as co-founders agree on in Panther, and see massive role for really restoring the data in asymmetry between the owner and the person wishing to utilize data. And you know, as we see with the emergence of virtual economies, this becomes even more important when people are spending more and more of their lives in virtual reality, augmented reality, etc., on the screens.
Yes, it does, and I love that you went full sci-fi for a moment there, Oliver, which is appropriate because as we finish off, the final question, of course, here on the Crypto Conversation Hot Take Round is, Oliver, what is your favourite science fiction, a book, film, show, or universe?
That's a good question. I really enjoy, first of all, I'm a fantasy fanatic more than a sci-fi fanatic. I did read a lot of Arthur C. Clarke and that stuff when I was younger. But Star Wars is just such a good metaphor for life, particularly the first 6 of them. I do like the new ones as well, but I just love the hero's story and how it plays out in the Star Wars. Really nice. It's really nice.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Well, hard to argue with that. The hero's journey, indeed. Look, hey, this has been a really good conversation, Oliver. I've enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for coming on and talking about the Panther Protocol. Nothing else to say, really, except hand the microphone back to you and, look, close us out. Tell the listeners where they can go to find you on your various platforms and where they should go to learn more about Panther Protocol.
Thank you so much, Andy. And to the listeners, you can find pantherprotocol.io. That's our website. Our Twitter is zkPanther, and you can find us on Telegram as well. Panther Protocol is there. The community is growing very quickly. And, you know, come and join us, be part of this. There's a lot. This is crypto. So the protocol is owned by all of us. We want to get that going. We really want new people building, working with us, helping us to grow it, challenging ideas, participating, taking ownership.
Awesome. Thank you, Oliver. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, there you go. That was Oliver Gale from Panther Protocol. He was an interesting guy, I thought, very articulate, and yeah, quite a unique background, with a background in the Caribbean, and you know, being I guess a music artist and like the kind of hip hop and Caribbean reggae scene, and then yeah, going from there into blockchain and crypto. Few interesting stops along the way. So yeah, fascinating indeed. I did enjoy that. I hope you enjoyed that too. If you did, please do make sure you're subscribed to the Crypto Conversation and whatever podcast app you are using. You know the deal. Hey, give us a nice review. Give us 5 stars in the Apple Podcast app. That would also be much appreciated. Thanks also to our new sponsor, Nexo, which of course can be found at nexo.io. You can unlock the power of your crypto. You can earn interest, 12% paid out daily, and you know, there's up to 18 different cryptocurrencies available as collateral. Very good service, easy to use, hard to argue with. Why would you not use it? Go and use it. Nexo.io. All right. Thanks, team. We are out of here. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin. See ya.